Have you ever talked yourself out of a massive opportunity, not because you lacked the skill, but because a quiet voice in the back of your head whispered, "That is too much for someone like me"? Maybe you had a brilliant business idea, but you convinced yourself to start something smaller and safer. Or maybe you saw others achieving extraordinary things, and you told yourself they must be different. They must have connections or money that you simply do not have. We often tell ourselves we are just being realistic. We say we are managing our expectations so we do not get hurt. But behavioral science has a different name for this. It is not realism. It is a defense mechanism called the cup syndrome. It is the subconscious habit of shrinking your reality to fit your current fears rather than expanding your capacity to fit your potential. If you have ever felt like you are suffocating inside a life that feels just a little too small for your soul, then this story is for you. Because once there was a man named Arthur who spent 30 years living inside a cup until one question shattered the glass and changed everything. Before we walk through Arthur's journey, I want you to make a small psychological commitment to yourself. We are about to challenge the way your brain processes limits. If you are tired of playing it safe and you are open to seeing a bigger version of your life, go down to the comments section right now and type the word ready. Go ahead. Type ready. This small action signals to your brain that you are not just watching entertainment. You are here to change. Stay with me until the very end of this video, because the lesson Arthur learned is not about working harder. It is about the physics of belief. Let me take you to a small town where everyone knew everyone. This is where Arthur lived. He was 32 years old, and he was the owner of a modest hardware store that he had inherited from his father. Arthur was a good man who worked incredibly hard, but he lived by a philosophy his father had drilled into him. His father used to say, "Arthur, be realistic. Tall trees catch the most wind. Keep your head down and keep the business steady." So Arthur did exactly that. When customers asked him to stock new items, he apologized and said he could not afford the risk. When his wife Sarah showed him the empty lot next door and suggested they expand, he felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his stomach. He told her that people like them did not build empires. People like them just tried to survive. Late at night, Arthur would look out the window at that empty lot. For a fleeting second, he would imagine a bigger store, maybe a place with a coffee corner or a workshop for locals. But then the voice would return. It would say, "Who are you kidding, Arthur? You are just a small-town hardware guy. Stay in your lane." If you have ever stared at an opportunity and then walked away because you felt you were not ready, I want you to hit the like button right now. Do it for Arthur, and do it for the version of yourself that deserves a second chance. Arthur thought playing it small was keeping him safe, but he was wrong. Safety is an illusion. One morning, a massive corporate home improvement chain opened just 2 blocks away. They had everything: brighter lights, cheaper prices, endless aisles. In biology, there is a rule. If an organism refuses to adapt, it dies. Within 3 months, Arthur's sales dropped by 50%. The regulars he had known for years started walking past his door to go to the giant retailer. He could not blame them. He was charging more for less. One rainy Tuesday, Arthur sat on the floor behind his counter. The store was empty. The silence was deafening. He realized that the strategy of being small had not protected him. It had left him defenseless. His wife Sarah found him there. She did not tell him to give up. Instead, she handed him a business card. It belonged to a man named Mr. Vance. Mr. Vance was a local legend. He was a tycoon who owned a chain of electronics stores across the state. But 40 years ago, he had been a broke mechanic in this very town. Arthur was terrified, but he had no choice. On the next day, he took the elevator to the 20th floor of Mr. Vance's office building. He had never been this high up before. Mr. Vance was a quiet man with sharp eyes. He listened to Arthur's story about the failing store and the big competitor. Then he stood up and did something strange. He placed two objects on his mahogany desk, a small porcelain teacup and a large glass vase. He took a pitcher of water and poured it into the teacup. It filled up in 2 seconds and then spilled over onto the desk. A mess. Then he took the same pitcher and poured the water into the large vase. The water swirled around the bottom. It looked empty. Mr. Vance looked at Arthur and said something that cuts to the core of behavioral psychology. He said, "Arthur, the water represents your effort and your potential. When you have a cup-sized mindset, it does not matter how hard you work. You are limited by the container. You are overflowing with effort, but you have nowhere to hold the results." He pointed to the vase. He said, "This is what happens when you expand your thinking. At first it feels scary. It feels empty. You feel like an imposter because you have not filled the space yet. But the law of nature is simple. The water always expands to fill the container you provide." Mr. Vance leaned in. He said, "Most people fail not because they aim too high and miss. They fail because they aim too low and hit. You are losing your business, Arthur, because you are trying to pour a vase worth of talent into a cup-sized life." That moment changed the chemistry of Arthur's brain. He realized the enemy was not the big store down the street. The enemy was the limit he had placed on his own identity. I want you to pause and ask yourself, are you living in a cup or a vase? If you are ready to smash the cup and build something bigger, type the word expansion in the comments. Let that be your declaration today. Arthur left that office and he did not go back to sleep. He went to the bank. He leveraged everything. He used his savings and took out a loan that made his hands shake as he signed the papers. He bought the empty lot next door. Everyone called him crazy. They said you cannot beat a giant on price. But Arthur was not trying to beat them on price anymore. He was playing a different game. He built the extension, but he did not fill it with just more hammers and nails. He built a maker's space, and he added a workshop where local carpenters could teach classes. He added a coffee bar where contractors could meet comfortably in the mornings. He created a community hub. The big box store sold products. Arthur sold connection. The first month was terrifying. Equipment broke. The debt felt heavy. The doubt tried to creep back in. But every time he felt fear, Arthur remembered the water in the vase. He kept pouring. And then it happened. The workshop classes filled up. The contractors started bringing their clients to Arthur's coffee bar. People came because they wanted to belong to something real, not just buy something cheap. 6 months later, Mr. Vance walked into the new store. He saw the bustling crowd. He smelled the fresh coffee and saw the sawdust on the floor from the woodworking class. He smiled at Arthur and said, "You did not just save a hardware store. You built a community. You finally traded your cup for a vase." Arthur realized that the fear of regret is much heavier than the fear of failure. Failure teaches you. Regret just haunts you. Today, Arthur is no longer just a shop owner. He mentors young entrepreneurs in his town, and when they come to him with small, safe plans, he asks them the same question Mr. Vance asked him. He asks, "What if you stopped telling yourself you cannot?" Arthur's story is not just about a hardware store. It is a mirror for every dream you have shrunk down to fit your fear. It is about every goal you downgraded because you convinced yourself you were not enough. So let us break down the behavioral science behind this transformation so you can apply it to your life immediately. Here's the truth. Your potential is never the problem. Your thinking about your potential is the problem. Your talent is like water. It is liquid. It will always take the exact shape of the container you provide for it. If you give your life a cup-sized belief system, do not be surprised when you only get cup-sized results. To break free from this, you need to remember 3 core principles. First, the size of your thinking determines the size of your reality. Small thinking creates small results, even if you put in massive effort. You cannot outwork a limited mindset. You have to expand the container first. Second, you do not need to know how to achieve the big vision today. This is where most people get stuck. They wait for a map before they start walking. But Arthur learned that the how only reveals itself to those who are brave enough to ask, what if? You do not need the strategy yet. You just need the willingness. Third regret for not trying will haunt you longer than any failure. Failure is just data. It teaches you what did not work. But regret whispers what if for the rest of your life. So here is my challenge to you. I want you to prove to yourself that you are ready to trade your cup for a vase. Think about one area of your life where you have been playing small. Maybe it is your career. Maybe it is a relationship. Maybe it is your health or a creative project. Now ask yourself this question. If I knew I could not fail, what would I attempt? Do not judge the answer. Do not shrink it. I want you to go to the comments section right now and write down that big, audacious goal. Declare it publicly. When you write it down, you stop it from being just a fantasy and you make it a plan. I will be down there reading your stories and cheering for your expansion. You are not limited by your circumstances. You are only limited by your willingness to think beyond them. The vase is waiting for you. It is time to fill it. Thank you for watching. If this story shifted something in your perspective, share it with someone who needs permission to dream bigger. I will see you in the next video.